ready? Roll podcast and action.
Alright, hello everybody. I am Nick.
I am Max.
And we're the Real Brothers. We are real brothers in real life, and we talk about movies. It's very clever.
Yeah, we're geniuses of puns.
Love it. You know, I knew your weird infatuation with puns, and that's when I finally came up with the idea. I was like, there's no way you're going to say no to this.
Absolutely not.
And hence the Real Brothers was born. But we are on episode 3.
Episode 3, this is chapter 3. This is our trilogy I guess.
Right.
So are we really going to lead this trilogy as a Spider-Man trilogy where it's like, wow, you could have done so much better?
I hope.
Or are we going to do like Dark Knight trilogy where we're like, when it ends on the 3rd episode, it's like, yeah, you know, it was all right.
So you're saying let's either we only have 2 options of ending this episode, and it's either going to be mediocre or terrible. All right, that's good to know.
Yeah, those aren't huge shoes to fill.
Yeah, but we need to set the bar real low.
Yeah, I like that. Because who knows? Maybe we'll come out as, like, Return of the Jedi, and everyone will just love us forever.
Well, I mean, that's kind of arguable. People were, like, meh about Return of the Jedi. Looking back on it, when it first came out, everybody was happy with it. But looking back on it, it's kind of like, it's almost like The Dark Knight Rises. It had to happen, so you're happy, but it's, it's so small compared to the second one. The Dark Knight was amazing. Empire Strikes Back is still regarded as one of the top, like, #1 science fiction movies ever made. So
that's still kind of arguable though. Like with a lot of the big fans, some people are like can't decide which is better, Sixer, Return or Empire.
Yeah, that's surprising. I thought it was pretty universal, Empire, but whatever. That's neither here nor there.
We could be Return of the King, where everyone's like about to leave, but then like it fades back in, and there's another ending, and they're like, I really gotta pee right now, like really bad.
Yeah, I'm gonna be at the end of this, and I'm gonna be like, wait, I got one more thing to say. 20 minutes later.
Nice little SpongeBob transition there.
Yeah, I know. My roommate always was super good at it. It was really funny. So we're gonna change things around a little bit. We're still working on. We're brand new to this stuff, so we're still working on a structure. And we like to do the whole like updating on what happened in the last week, what's going on in the next coming week, and what's going on in the future. But that can get a little boring and stuff, and we can miss weeks as we did last week. For the hardcore, diehard fans of ours that may have noticed that we weren't around, we didn't post week by week. Yeah, sorry guys, we're really sorry. But when that happens, we can have episodes like this to kind of be filler and that stand the test of time. So we're gonna introduce a little section called hypotheticals, and we are going to change it up every time we introduce it. But for this one, since it's our first one, we wanted to start out really broad and do, if you've ever thought about just a movie that you wanted to be made, and what is it going to be, and what would you like to see, and I'm going to make 2 rules. You got to at least have some sort of idea for a director and your main actor for your main role. I mean, if you don't have that, you don't have that. It's fine. But, Mags, you and me have always talked about that in the past in general. So I just thought, why the hell not? This is what we use this podcast for, to talk about movies. You're always just like, oh man, wouldn't it be sweet if that was in a movie? And why aren't we doing this on the podcast? It only makes sense. So I figured we'd start that off. And, would you happen to have any ideas just offhand, Max?
I think about these things just in my free time, because that's me. But so yeah, I have a lot of ideas, but
because you totally weren't prepared for this. We totally didn't talk about this beforehand, right?
Not at all. Well, I mean, I have these ideas anyway.
Right.
The amount of like books and comics and video games I partake in.
There's a lot of things out there that are surprisingly enough not made into movies yet, and you kind of think to yourself, why has that not been made? Pretty much everything has been made into a movie by now. You got Hercules, the myths. You got practically every myth.
They've made like 20 Resident Evil movies, and all of them have been fantastic garbage. Where like you love them, but they're undeniably bad.
Fantastic garbage.
So,
like that.
Yeah.
So why don't you start us off, Max? Because you got so many.
Well, one I made forever ago, just kind of like speculating, was if Half-Life was being made into a film. But
Of course, you and thousands others.
oh yeah, but that's like sacred territory though, because like I said, if Resident Evil is made into a film and that's the results, then not a lot of people with the insane cult following that Half-Life has, not a lot of people are going to be wanting that to be made into a film. But
Now, for those less inclined, you give us a short summary of Half-Life and the summary and what they are in the real life.
Okay, Half-Life is about Half-Life is about
post-apocalyptic. There you go.
Post-apocalypse, sure, kind of, not really. Just
oh god,
they're scientists and they open a portal to another dimension, and that's the first one. And then the second one, spoilers, they gain power by then, I guess.
Very cool.
I don't know. Everybody should know it. If you're on the internet, you should know Half-Life.
Are there talks? You think something like this popular would already be in talks of kind of being made in a movie?
There's like speculation a while ago. J.J. Abrams and Gabe Newell, J.J. Abrams being the director of everyone's either favorite or least favorite Star Trek movie, and Gabe Newell being the creator of Half-Life and the co-founder and CEO of Valve, which is a company behind Half-Life. And they kind of had like a conference together, like a press conference where they kind of talked about the differences between the medium of video games and movies. And it was kind of like, oh cool, a director and this guy, Gabe Newell, just hanging out, whatever. And then afterwards, there was like some talks about Half-Life and Portal being developed in a movie produced by J.J. Abrams. But that was like a little while ago. People say it hasn't been like canceled or canned at all, but it's just kind of nobody said anything. It's like, I want to say a few months ago, it was like really confirmed, quote unquote confirmed. But 2 years ago was when it first kind of like got surface. So people are kind of like mixed on whether they really truly believe in it or not.
It's kind of like the illusory Half-Life 3 that everybody talks about. Elusive. Sorry, that was the wrong word. Illusory. The elusive Half-Life 3 game that everybody's waiting for. It's like they hint at it and they don't hint at it. It's like my roommate told me it's like the big joke of games that keep getting hinted at over and over again but never actually happen.
Yeah, that's just torture.
I know. Game designers like to do that to people.
They
That's cool.
They did this one thing where they were. If you ever seen the Half-Life symbol, it's the Greek symbol, the lambda, and it's the logo because that's the complex that they work at in the first game. But they did this thing where they replaced the lambda in the logo with a 3, but without really telling anybody, they put a really tiny little D next to it. So they were saying that they were releasing on Steam Half-Life 3D and not Half-Life 3. And they did it on purpose. They did this little tiny D so that everyone freaked out about Half-Life 3.
That's cruel and unusual. Why? Yeah, they're sitting in their high horse. They're just loving it too. They don't care.
They're my absolutely favorite video game company, but they're also my least favorite video game company because of things like that.
I could see that. Yeah.
But
very cool.
All right.
That sounds like a cool.
So
idea.
for my, I guess if I had a cast and crew for that, my director would probably be Neil Blomkamp.
Right, District 9.
If anyone doesn't know, he did the amazing District 9, the disappointing Elysium, and the meh Chappie. So,
have you seen it? I haven't seen Chappie yet.
I've heard that it's all right. A lot of people are giving it unnecessary hate, so I'm guessing it's going to be like a Man of Steel type deal where it's a decent movie. It's not a perfect movie, but it's like people are going to overreact because they're always going to compare it to like District 9 or something.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, it's hard. I mean, the guy hasn't really broken out of his shell. I mean, I know he's a good director, but he hasn't broken out of the same shell. He's created literally 3 of the almost exact same movies.
Oh yeah, all of them are vaguely futuristic. They all have to do with Johannesburg.
Yeah.
Which, right from what you know, I understand from a writer's standpoint in doing that, but they all have to do with like some metaphor involving immigration or poverty.
It's always like real issues or whatever. But,
and it's like not even like subtle whatsoever. I don't really care about that because District 9 entertained me. It was super obvious what it meant. but it still entertained me.
Like I said, I think he's a good director, so he'd do a good job.
Yeah.
He just needs to show us that he can do something else.
Yeah, with him, it's the directing the action, the visual effects, his just overall his style. It doesn't have to have any of his metaphors, and Gordon Freeman doesn't have to be Charlton Copley, but it's his style, it's his vision that really like stands out. I'm not sure who I would completely do for Gordon Freeman, but I guess one of my choices that a lot of people point to is like Bryan Cranston, because he just has like the exact. Because in Breaking Bad he looks spot on Gordon Freeman, just a little older. I guess if they just like, I don't know. He was obviously supposed to be aging in Breaking Bad, but if they made him less obviously aged, then he'd be a good Gordon Freeman. The other people that I would kind of think of would be like Michael Fassbender or something like that. He would be good. He's just good in everything. So for writers, if Neil Blomkamp didn't write, I would have the guys who wrote that movie The Signal that came out last year. The insanely underrated sci-fi movie that was amazing.
All right, very cool. I believe in it, and I'd love to see something like that. I haven't really even gotten into the games, but I know that I always love that dystopian type future stuff. Like, I love that stuff. It's great.
Oh yeah, he'd be good. He'd be good at Blomkamp would be good at both. The first one that takes place mostly in a laboratory and a big like science complex, and he'd also really be good at the second one, which is the dystopian kind of the occupied Earth, which a lot of his stuff kind of like deals with like that kind of subject matter. So he'd be good with the visuals on that, and like all the production design would be spot on, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it would be like I said, good change of pace to see him do something that he hasn't necessarily written,
Yeah. And when you look at it, he and somebody else wrote District 9, but he alone wrote Elysium.
Ah, okay.
So
all right.
that I don't know if that says anything, but
I don't know.
Yeah.
And
Chappie was written by him and someone else, which a lot of people are saying is
Guy Antwoord. I love that they were in that movie.
I heard they were a nightmare on set though.
Really? Well, they're crazy.
Or at least the guy was. Ninja was.
They're nuts in real life, so I mean.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Crazy South Africans. Anyways, that's cool. I hope it's made too.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that whole collection of people would make it work. How about you? Do you have any input on adaptations?
I had a few, and actually this is the one that always comes to mind with this right away. It probably will never get made, and that's why I like to talk about it. The other two have a good chance of being made that I'm going to talk about, but this one almost certainly, and it's kind of sad. Along in the 70s, Frank Frazetta, have you ever heard of him? Painter. Painted one of the coolest little paintings of this death dealer, everybody called him. Mm-hmm. There's actually a comic book series that came out recently of the death dealer. Not based on what I'm going to talk about, kind of their own little thing. But it's this really dark image of this guy on a horse, and he's got a big helmet, and he's got these sick horns coming off the side, and that's all it was just him on a horse looking menacing, blah, blah. The helmet covered his head completely, just the two little eye slits were like this red steam came out. It seemed like really cool stuff. My dad, our dad always liked it. Turns out that this one guy, James Silk, very unknown author, made 4 books surrounded just around these paintings. And, they're nothing crazy. They're nothing spectacular, no Pulitzer Prize material, but it's such a fun read, and it's so cool at the same time. It gives me a very Lord of the Rings vibe, but even tamer. It could be a much more brutal Lord of the Rings, honestly. I said tame, and then I said brutal, but I meant like, as far as the fantastical element of Lord of the Rings goes, it's way tamer in that sense. But violence-wise, it's way more brutal.
Yeah, I remember Frazetta was big on those really like kind of medieval, but like medieval fantasy ones. But they're not the sparkly ones. They were always his paintings were always the really dark and the brutal kind of looking.
Yeah, really, really, always like dark. Always liked a lot of naked women. He was a big
Oh
fan
yeah,
of that.
he definitely in like the vein of if anyone's ever read the heavy metal comics or anything
Absolutely,
or
yeah.
stuff like that. He didn't have anything to do with those, but it's that kind of styled art.
Definitely, that's him all over. And actually, I should say, Frazetta was involved in making a film that was relatively famous. It was an animated film about one of his like paintings or something that he made. It was really weird. There was like nudity and violence in it, and it was animated, so it was kind of odd. So he has made one of his adaptations that kind of made some sort of success. So it does heighten my hope for this. Anyways, I should get to the synopsis of the books. Basically, it surrounds this barbarian. He's not part of any crew or anything like that. He's not part of any band. He's just on his own. He does his own thing. Very, like, anti-hero-esque. And then this horde of bad guys, baddies basically, let's just call them, is attacking this land. And this lady basically kind of seduces him. Her name's Cobra, which is weird. But this is what introduces a little bit of the fantastical element. She's like a sorceress, but like kind of evil. So she kind of seduces him to get him to do stuff. And at the very end of the first book, he gets the horned helmet. Now the horned helmet's like some sort of crazy, basically cursed helmet. And she says he has to put it on to become strong and win and help her. And when he puts it on, it realizes that like it sucks him in. He's all of a sudden a prisoner. Hence the title of the first book, Prisoner of the Horned Helmet. And the rest of the books pretty much go on. It gives him like godlike powers, this helmet. And he goes on, he crosses lands after lands, different jungle lands, and all in kind of pursuit of saving this lady named Robin Lakehair, who's supposed to be very good looking, who is in company with a very bumbling, kind of entertaining man named Brown John, who is in it for his own gain financially, but he also kind of gets turned around and become a better person in the process. All the while this guy is just, with his massive axe and just tearing shit up left and right. He fights gigantic bats. He fights gigantic alligators. All the while he's kind of fighting with control over this horned helmet. And in the beginning, he has no control over it. It runs his life. It's terrible and just terrifying to him. And then finally he gains control over it, and he becomes like really powerful. And it all ends in this really great way. And ending, it's very fun towards the end. Everybody gets happy. They're all like, they say, it reminds me, a lot of the big battle scenes do remind me of Lord of the Rings, because there's like, they're defending these big castles and stuff. So I really think it could be very cool. If Lord of the Rings was made, then people could definitely handle stuff like this. I always wonder if people can handle that much fantasy, because it's just so out there. But if they could handle Lord of the Rings, they could definitely handle a movie like this. I think it'd be really cool. But I just would love, I've always wanted to see him in live action. Just tearing shit up.
So I'm guessing for actor, you would just immediately pick Arnold Schwarzenegger from his Conan roles.
Oh, clearly.
Definitely. He's just first pick, right?
Because he's just so massive. No, I went through a lot of ones for the first role, and honestly, I was going through a few here or there that were just based on, like, physical size, Because that's the whole part about him. He's supposed to be freaking huge. He's a huge dude. But then a lot of times when you do that, you're limited by acting range, hence Arnie. But obviously Vin Diesel came to mind, and he has his limited range, but in some of the, as far as the brooding badass goes, he's got that down pat. Riddick, Fast and the Furious, he has that anti-hero thing down. But to get a little more range, I also thought of Tom Hardy, and yeah, I know, right? I mean, after Bane, you can't help but not think it, and he has a little more acting range.
Oh yeah, hands down.
I also thought of Hugh Jackman. Maybe a little bit too much range there, but it's hard to picture him because this main guy, the barbarian, he's supposed to be kind of dumb, I guess. And actually, going back to Tom Hardy, I liked what I saw in Warrior, if you ever got a chance to see it. He was like an MMA fighter, and he had a really kind of messed up home life, and So I saw his size in Dark Knight, and then I saw his ability to play someone really kind of torn and twisted inside in Warrior.
Uh-huh.
So I thought that kind of made me think of Tom Hardy.
Yeah, he fought what's his face, Uncle Owen in that. Young
Uncle
Uncle
Owen.
Owen.
I never remembered his acting name.
I every time I remember it in times that I don't need it, but like whenever I'm about to say his name, it always loses. I always lose it.
Just go to Uncle Owen.
Joel Edgerton.
Joel Edgerton. Okay.
Yes, he was also in The Great Gatsby, and he was great in that. He's super underrated. For an actor,
I mean, he was solid in Warrior. I thought Warrior was pretty good. They really, without getting too off track, they really played a good brother role. But anyways, and you'll like this part. So for directors, I was thinking of two things. Now, what do you think of when you think of kind of like knights, swords, action? Does any like one director come to mind?
Sylvester Stallone.
Director?
He directs.
Really?
He did Expendables 1. He did. I don't know.
I'm thinking knights, swords. All right, Ridley Scott.
Okay.
Ridley Scott came to
Ridley
mind.
Scott.
But just for the action, really, he's not really like, he's got those great battle scenes, but sometimes he lacks on plot. After Robin Hood, I was really disappointed in his movies. But I feel like he may have been forced to make that movie. So I thought of the battle sequences between Gath is the barbarian name. I thought of the battle sequences between him and like the gigantic bat that he fights, and the gigantic crocodile, and all these crazy like.
And when he fights Uncle Owen.
Yes, and I thought that Guillermo is right? Is that how you say it? Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo. Gillian.
Sure.
Gilligan.
That Del Toro guy.
Gilligan.
That Del Toro guy, the dude that made Pan's Labyrinth and shit. You know that guy.
Movie was awesome.
Right. So he's got that shit. He's got that dark fantasy down. I don't know if he's got so much of the action sequences, but he's got that dark fantasy stuff down. So I think it'd be really cool to see him take a crack at that movie.
He's got the style with Pan's Labyrinth, and he's got the action with Pacific Rim and Hellboy. He both directed those.
I forgot about that. So there you go. That gives me a little bit more hope then. But
both 8 movies.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, I have not heard anything about this movie. I was a little pumped when I saw that the comic was coming out, that maybe it would have maybe gave some popularity in it and people would have started noticing it and made a movie out of it. But the comics were really weird and nothing like the book, and it made like the Death Dealer like some headless horseman kind of guy, and I didn't like that. I like that he was a real person kind of trapped by this insane cool like helmet, and that he had to like gain control of it.
Did you hear about Fire and Ice?
That is a Frazetta, right? Thing you're talking about?
Frazetta. It's a Frazetta painting, yeah.
Oh. I have not heard all of it.
That's another one like the Half-Life thing where it was announced that Robert Rodriguez is doing it a la Sin City, where it follows the art style, but so far like the Half-Life movie, it's been announced, but nothing other than that. Like a few months ago, it was just kind of like, yeah, we're doing it, and then boof, that's it.
Yeah, that kind of happens a lot with the movies. It's actually what's definitely happening with the next 2 movies I'm going to come out with, but my turn is up, so you're up for next one.
The next few I don't necessarily have like big ideas on. I would just say, I guess I'm currently reading the book Metro 2033, which a lot of people know was made into a video game, which a lot of people I've heard is relatively like, it's as faithful as a video game can be towards a book.
The video game came first or the book?
Book came first.
Oh, okay.
And it's by Dmitry Gluchovsky. So if that gives you any hint about where it takes place in Russia.
In America. Oh. So
you were
when
close.
You said Gluchovsky, I thought immediately like California,
Yeah, the Californians. What are you doing here?
What are you doing here? What are you doing here, Gluchovsky? See, it just rolls off the tongue. So that's cool. That's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Whether post-apocalyptic again, keeping with the theme. All right, Blomkamp.
Yeah. I mean, he maybe he would work. He's too daytime about this. Metro, the whole thing about Metro is it's all the light is so dim and it's so dark that I feel like the two directors, the two directors that really came to mind at first was
Say Fincher. You're gonna say Fincher.
not Fincher. No, he is coming up later though.
Okay.
The one I mostly thought of was Zack Snyder because he could handle. Because I'm just thinking about like the war scenes in Sucker Punch were greatly handled. The kind of like monsters you see in like 300, those would show up because they're so you don't like blatantly see the monsters in the book. I mean, in the game you see them a little bit more. They're a little bit more evident, but he's really good with the style, and I feel like to emphasize the lack of light and the lack of like the claustrophobia, just everything about the world of Metro 2033, Snyder would be really good. I mean, Ridley Scott kind of came to mind for directing, but for the most part, a director that would make more sense was Fedor Bondarchuk. I think I'm saying that right. He did the 2013 Stalingrad, which was like this super stylized recreation of the famous battle of the same name.
Huh.
And it got amazing reviews. It's all in Russian, so I guess that would make sense.
I saw commercials for that, and it was like, hailed as the next Saving Private Ryan, and I never saw it. I feel like it just kind of squeaked into theaters, and I never heard about it.
It was foreign, which is the only unfortunate part. I really still want to see it, but that's why it wasn't in the mainstream audience. It was released in IMAX 3D, which is awesome, and I totally wish I saw it then.
Yeah.
But being completely foreign, completely subtitled, with the exception of you probably see like Americans in there somewhere, I'm sure.
Just one American guy. What's up?
Yeah. I mean, it was a great.
Sick of this Russian? Yeah, me too. All right, that's all my lines. Peace.
Apparently, he's the Californian from. He's Dmitry Glachovsky. Just comes in the movies like, yo.
That's just my normal voice that I speak with whenever it's just anybody but me. It's like, yeah, what's up?
What are you doing here? We're in Stalingrad.
What are you, I just picture Fred Armisen and his whole California thing, and like just chilling in the midst of a battlefield. What are you doing here? And he just gets shot.
To give us some basic summary of it, the real life part of it is the fact that the metro train system underneath Moscow in Russia has actually this is a real facts.
We have real facts. We can be educational on this.
History, science, I guess. They are actually built to withstand nuclear disaster. So if there's a nuclear apocalypse, people would go down and take shelter down there. And the whole plot of Metro 2033 is, you guessed it, it's the year 2033, and they are in the metros, and they have been surviving in the metros for however many years. And there's the whole government. The for the most part, it comes off as this kind of political drama where you don't know who's going to rise to power. There's the different factions. The metro is huge, by the way. There's the different factions, the different gangs, and the ammunition, for the most part, is their currency, which is an awesome idea. But what really starts to lurk more and more through the cracks is what's up above. Everything that's been, mutating and kind of growing out there is now trying to get in. So then it turns into this kind of like horror monster story, which I feel like that would just be an amazing story to put on screen, seeing as it translated really well from, if you could translate something from a book to a video game and like make it successful, then it absolutely would work.
Yeah.
As a movie, maybe even as like a series, like a multiple franchise series, because the third Metro book is currently being written, but there's only been 2 games so far, so who knows? That would be
You just kind of remind me of something that Ridley Scott, that like he would be good with that kind of grit, and I just keep picturing Black Hawk Down. So yeah, Black Hawk Down was Ridley Scott, and I keep thinking of like the dirt and the grime and all the grunge on there, and it was really cool. And then I just totally had forgotten about this movie, but and I'm completely forgetting about it now. Oh, Alien, he did Alien, so he's got that horror sci-fi thing down. So maybe if he just kind of implemented that into the, Alien, like you said, I think he could do a good job. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, he definitely came to mind. The two actors are only inspired because of a recent movie that's coming out called Child 44. Two actors I would think I would have in mind are Gary Oldman and Tom Hardy, because I don't really know many Russian actors with the exception of the guy from, like, I don't know, Indiana Jones 4.
Right.
I don't know. But Gary Oldman and Tom Hardy seem to be in that movie, Child 44. I saw the trailers for it. They seem to be nailing the whole Russian thing, so
Huh.
I'm excited about that movie, and they would be perfect. Tom Hardy would be perfect for the lead role. Gary Oldman would be perfect for one of the supporting roles.
Yeah, Oldman's got pretty much. I've never seen him really do anything terrible. I mean, God, he's done really good stuff.
He was in that horrible movie Tiptoes, where Matthew McConaughey has, like...
Oh, God. Wasn't that
It was like...
That was on that list, that movies you thought just were impossible to make or something, or like...
Yeah.
Like movies you would never actually think were real just because the idea is so terrible.
Yeah. And apparently he was the best part, next to, like, I think Tyrion Lannister is in it as like a side role or something.
As himself.
Yeah.
So what is Tiptoes about? Just for everyone else.
Oh.
It's unreal, right? It's like you can't like say the plot without even it. What is it? Just about it's about a man who falls in love with a woman, if I remember correct, or is it the opposite way around? The woman falls in love with a man who's in a family of a bunch of midgets, or sorry, little people.
Yeah.
And she needs to get past that obstacle, and it's really...
I'll link in the link dump. There's this perfect breakdown of exactly what it's like, really, like, that's the description on the back of the DVD, but, like, what actually is produced, what movie is somehow actually made, is just a mystery to everybody. So I'll link, shout out to cracked.com for making a perfect video and describing it. They're obsessive pulp culture.
Normally do, as
yeah,
they always do.
Their series, Dan O'Brien's series, Obsessive Pop Culture Disorder, highlights it in their first episode, and
That's how you know how good it is.
Entitled officially the worst idea anyone's ever made into a movie. So it's good then.
Tiptoes. You can tell it's terrible just by the title, right away.
Tiptoes.
It's like the title itself is offensive already. It's like, oh, dude, whoa. It's like you read that title. Oh, I really don't want to see this movie.
So after that rant about Tiptoes, is there any more genius movie ideas? That just any idea right now after listening to us talk about Tiptoes probably sounds like the greatest idea ever. But any ideas, Nick?
I have a few more, just two more, really. But these are different. These are different than the first one because these came really close to making movies, so there's bound to be made into them in the next 20 years, I'd say. The first one I want to start off with is Rendezvous with Rama, or Rama, or whatever.
Okay.
Big science fiction book. I gave it to you to read. I don't know if you got around to it yet. But it's by Sir Arthur C. Clarke, big science fiction writer. Actually,
2001.
Yeah, he's part of the 2001 Space Odyssey. He wrote while it was being directed, which is hailed as one of the best, number one science fiction movies of all time, right behind Empire Strikes Back, of course. This book, Rendezvous with Rama, relatively short book, very short book actually, is hailed as one of the cornerstones of his career. So you think to yourself, 2001, already made into a movie. I think one other book of his was made into a movie already. And you got this one that's literally been hinted at for the last, 10 years. And the part that I love the most about it is that Morgan Freeman has been trying to push the hell out of it. He loves it, I guess. He loves the idea and, is behind it completely. But before I go into that too much, I'll give you a little bit of the plot. The plot is basically, it's a pretty cool idea. It's called on the Wikipedia page a hard science fiction novel, which I think is kind of funny, and this 8-year-old in me finds it kind of funny. But a hard science fiction book means basically that it's really, really grounded on fucking serious scientific facts, I guess. It's it doesn't take any liberties with facts.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, as much so, it's called fiction, so it's saying it could still not happen or not ever happen. So the main plot of this is that big ass asteroid crashes into the Earth. Bruce Willis doesn't get his shit together in time to save the world. He's too busy knocking golf balls into off boats and shit. So the asteroid hits, kills everybody. It hits Venice, and massive destruction. So they set up this thing called Space Guard, which is a bunch of satellites around Earth that are basically trying to detect if anything else comes into our orbit or could potentially kill the Earth.
Uh-huh.
And they get a little blip on their radar one day, and they think it's another asteroid, but it's not going to hit Earth. And then they realize as it gets closer that it's not an asteroid, it's a cylinder, like a massive cylinder, big enough to potentially house a new alien species. So basically the book surrounds this little expedition that goes onto this vessel, explores the inside of it, and it's this very cool, slow burn kind of bit by bit they discover a little bit more. There's not an incredible amount of action, and it kind of doesn't do the typical, it doesn't follow the same science fiction tropes, like where everybody dies at the end and stuff like that. Not giving away the ending, but
okay.
It does kind of change around the stereotype, which is nice. And it's really cool, and it kind of makes you understand how the discovery aspect of being an astronaut. It's like all these science fiction movies, always, Gravity, Sunshine, Interstellar even, they always show you how dangerous it can be and how many people die, and this one's just about discovering something really cool. And the coolest part about it is it gets really political as this cylinder flows closer and closer to Earth. They know it's an potentially alien species, and they're wondering if it's like active, like it has weapons or something. So there's this huge debate on Earth whether or not to shoot it down, to blow it up, of course, because that's the first thing we think of.
Of course.
And so there's political intrigue, there's a good slow burn thriller, there's science fiction in the mix. I think it would be really cool, and to see someone like Mark.
It's a nice musical number.
Yeah. There's a dance at the end. No, there's no dance at the end. It'd be interesting to see.
Spoiler.
It'd be interesting to see a musical number like written out in a novel. It'd be so boring. But anyways, so the main guy is the commander, of course, the captain of the crew, and he's very ambitious but well-minded, good head on his shoulders kind of guy, as most space captains should be. So I did think of Morgan Freeman as a space captain. I think it would be his first kind of role as that, and that fact that he's pushing for it hard and is so passionate about it, I think he would do a really good job at making sure he doesn't mess up the role. And a lot of actors kind of don't give a shit about the source material sometimes, And I also thought of Jeff Bridges. The character is an older kind of guy and very open to new exploration and seeing something cool. And when Jeff Bridges is talking about exploring these new worlds in Tron, it made me kind of think, he'd be a cool part to play this main guy.
He could work.
Yeah. So I think those two dudes would be cool. So that's what I have for the actors. But yeah.
Nice. That'd be really interesting to see. Yeah.
It's really a slow burn. So when I thought of slow burn, what director comes to mind when you think of that? I'm kind of curious what you might say.
Well, besides the obvious Kubrick, who's just the king of slow burn.
Right.
I don't know. I guess David Fincher. David Fincher for the most part.
Well, I didn't think it's weird. I didn't think of Kubrick. I guess because he did his 2001: A Space Odyssey. I don't know if they would work together again, and I don't.
Well, Kubrick's also not alive.
Oh, he's dead. Right. Okay.
Oh, that's another reason they wouldn't work together.
Right. Yeah, totally knew that.
Pretty sure Arthur C. Clarke is also not alive.
Yep, I knew that part.
Citation needed.
No, Arthur C. Clarke is definitely dead.
Okay. Double confirmation.
Maybe. Anyway. No, but
possibly alive. Tell his wife that there's a possibility he's out there.
Tell his wife there's a chance, man.
We might have found him.
So obviously it wouldn't be Kubrick, but I thought a slow burn. I kind of thought Scorsese, and this is really odd for him, but I don't think he's done a science fiction yet. Wouldn't it be cool?
Hugo.
Hugo is, well, yeah, it was animated.
More of a fantasy.
More fantasy, more animated. This is real, this would be intense.
Well, no, that wasn't animated.
Hugo wasn't animated? I thought it was animated.
No. There's a lot of CG, but it wasn't.
Oh. Well, either way, I like to see him do it. Just as far as The Departed was such a slow burn. But then I thought of the visuals, of course, of science fiction movies. And I thought of, what's it called? Danny Boyle, who has done a ton of, he did Trainspotting, he did Sunshine, and, I don't know if you've read this, but he, after doing Sunshine, never wants to make a science fiction movie ever again.
I was gonna say that after right when you said Danny Boyle, I'm like, there's not many high hopes on that.
Sunshine is one of my favorite science fiction movies. I'm kind of a little bit of a fan of science fiction, as you'll see by my last idea pick for a movie. But
I just bought that on Blu-ray, so
yeah, it's a fantastic movie. But so let's try to semblance in some sort of reality. I would say no to Danny Boyle because I just know he would never do it. Trust me, I asked. I called him. He said no.
Oh, okay.
But my last kind of idea choice for a director would be Paul. I think I'm getting this right. Paul Thomas Anderson, not W.S. W.S. is Mortal Kombat, right?
Yes. Mortal Kombat and Resident Evil.
Yeah, they get that shit out. And so I would do Paul Thomas Anderson because visually he's created some of these crazy good movies. And, he did There Will Be Blood, and he did The Master, which is one of my favorite, and he's got these great characters, and I think it would be cool to see him do a science fiction. It was hard to place this movie, though. This is one of those books that's really, it's hard to see as a movie, so it was hard for me to pick out a director, but I don't know.
Fun little thing about Paul W.S. Anderson, who is, he's Mortal Kombat director. He was originally just credited as Paul Anderson, but he hated getting confused with Paul Thomas Anderson. So
which still happens apparently.
I guess. So he changed it. So he put his official thing as Paul W.S. Anderson to differentiate him. But now he's asked how he likes working with Bill Murray, because apparently now he's confused with Wes Anderson. So this fucking guy just can't win.
W.S. Anderson also does your what you like to call, what is it? Amazing garbage. Yeah.
Fantastic trash or something like that.
He's done, I don't know if I have this right, but he's done all of the Resident Evils?
Except for one or two.
Okay.
I think he helped write all of them, but he only directed a few.
I mean, that dude loves directing bad movies. He just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, he's fucking like... Did you see Pompeii, the explosion?
He did Pompeii. I don't know if you saw that one, but I didn't, because I didn't want to, and apparently it was terrible, so that makes sense. He did also do, which is one of my top, probably 10 favorite movies of all time, he did Event Horizon, and I love the shit out of that movie. So he has
got a lot of mixed reviews. Yeah, I heard that was out there. That was pretty awesome.
You gotta see it. I love it. There were some cuts, I guess, that were really, really dark and crazy, but made the movie a little different. But overall, it's one of the best sci-fi horror movies I've ever seen. But not that dude. I want the other Paul Anderson to direct Rendezvous with Rama. But yeah.
You want Wes Anderson?
Yeah, I want Wes Anderson in the Fantastic Adventures in the Space Place with Alec Baldwin
and Bill Murray.
Yeah, and Adrian Brody and.
Everything's beige. Space is all just stop motion. All the space travel is just stop motion.
That would be kind of cool, actually. I mean, I'm just thinking of the underwater life and Life Aquatic, and I'm like, oh, that was awesome. Anyways, we're way off topic. But do you got anything else? Because I got my last one on the back pocket. You got anything else? But
one that would just be small is an animated adaptation of the graphic novel Marvel 1602, which was just a story arc. It was written by Neil Gaiman, who wrote a lot of stuff. If you don't know him, then fucking Google him. And
it's terrible at that. You don't know him, then it sucks. Go die.
It's exactly how it sounds. It's a lot of really good Marvel heroes and villains, kind of, if they were to be who they are in the year 1602 in England. And it's a really cool take on it. Like I said, it's written by Neil Gaiman, and he's written scripts before. He helped write the Americanization, kind of like translation of Princess Mononoke. He helped anything that didn't translate really well into American audiences, like if there was a scene or a term that just wouldn't make sense even if it translated directly, he would change that, and he rewrote parts and kind of collaborated with Miyazaki on that one.
Which
Definitely
is
everyone
to your
should
next
see.
idea,
Everyone
I'm
should
guessing?
see Princess Mononoke. No, that's mine. I'm gonna direct it.
Yeah. Okay, so if it hasn't been made apparent already, Max is the director of this thing. He's going to school for it. So, when
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
Princess Mononoke confirmed for a 2040 release.
for 2040 release, production has started. It is starting slow, but
It's a little slow. No, but
Billy Bob Thornton as the guy.
see
who will
that
be
movie.
dead at the time.
He nailed that role though.
He did, yeah. He did.
If anyone hasn't seen Princess Mononoke, see it, watch it. It's the greatest.
It is great.
It's definitely in my probably my top 10. It's one of the best movies.
That leads me to my final one, if you don't mind me cutting in, if you got anything else. But that leads me, kind of standing on the shoulders of your anime thing. And I used to be kind of like very nasty towards anime, because basically anybody who watched anime in school was a total nerd. I gotta be honest. And now I understand a little bit of why the appeal of anime, because it's just straight acting, like, all the time.
He gets it, everybody. He gets it. Give him a hand.
It's great. Like, there's these scenes in Dragon Ball Z where it's just 20 minutes of straight fighting. Sick.
Yeah.
And they're just blowing the shit out of each other, man. They're just great. But anyway.
The thing about that is all of those shows have like the most insane detailed backstory with the most insane mind-blowing action. I love it. Is because it's just non-stop action or non-stop, like, really well-written backstories.
Yeah. So there's definitely the goofiness about anime, of course. And you'll see that in Princess Mononoke if anybody ever gets around to seeing it. So, which brings me to the highly regarded, critically acclaimed #1 anime movie that has ever been made, so far at least, made back in the 80s, called Akira. And it is awesome. I watched it like a little while ago because I kept hearing about it, and I finally got into this whole anime deal, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna look for the cool, because I saw Princess Mononoke, highly regarded as one of the better anime movies, and then right next to it is Akira, not Miyazaki, who is Miyazaki is a pretty well-known creator of anime. He did a ton of that were critically acclaimed, award-winning, but somebody else separate, and I'm not entirely sure who, wrote this movie Akira, and it's just basically this really cool story of this dystopian future. Once again, you can tell what kind of movies me and Max like, I guess, based on our
We're
choice.
super happy. We love super happy movies.
Yeah, we love romantic comedies and children's movies.
Bring on the Hugh Grant.
Love it. He would be terrible in every movie that we talked about. But so Akira basically centers around this dystopian future. It's kind of science fiction again, but it follows around this group of kids that are messed up, that are wrapped up in this really crime gang, and this one kid in their troop or whatever gets basically transformed in this power. Meanwhile, everybody keeps talking about this mythological Akira, and it all culminates into some insane action sequences, tons of cool bike races and stuff, and it's got this such cool style of the city. Now, this is kind of cheating for me to say Akira, and if you look it up, I'm looking it up just now, I'm looking at it right now. There's like 6 paragraphs on the live action section of Wikipedia, like of all the shit that's been going down since like 2001 to get this made into a movie, because everybody wants it being made into a movie. There's a bunch of people that are trying to get it into being made into a movie, but nothing culminates, There's been a ton of actors that have been attached to it, approached for the roles. Everybody turns it down, or just like it gets going and then production stops and all this shit. But it seems like in the recent they're actually getting a little headway on it. But I'm a little concerned because so guess who got attached to direct?
Who?
Colette Serra, the guy who did Nonstop and Run All Night. Now, yeah, so if you know my views on Run All Night, which was talked about in the last episode, i.e. last episode, then you know my feelings of this dude, this director. This paragraph further explains why I don't like him. So he's definitely attached to it. He says he's been making work on it. He says he's been approaching actors. Production has started, I guess, so it almost kind of looks like it's really going to happen. But listen to this. He was recently quoted on the script of the film, and he said during the interview, he claimed that the main characters were not protagonists, and he also offered his opinions towards the source material, which is literally, you can look it up everywhere, highly regarded as one of the anime, and actually, I looked it up just a little while ago, science fiction as a whole has regarded this movie as one of the best science fiction movies out there ever, right next to Space Odyssey and Empire Strikes Back. That's pretty incredible.
And Return of the Jedi, just throwing that out there.
Right, for some people. And this is what the dude says, the director that is directing this movie. He says, nobody's interesting. Tetsuo, who is the main character, is interesting because he literally says this, I'm reading a quote. Tetsuo is interesting because weird shit happens to him, and Kanata, who is the other main character, is so two-dimensional. On the subject of Japanese fiction as a whole, he went on to say, it's part of the Japanese culture. They never have strong characters. They're used as a way to move the philosophy forward. I mean, and then they show this dude is basically bashing the characters and the source material that he is supposed to be directing for the movie. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Looks like he doesn't really care about it.
Yeah, so all the fans...
No, Nick. He doesn't care about Akira.
That's terrible.
Welcome to the Real Brothers podcast, everybody.
Shut up.
Top-notch comedy. All the time.
It wasn't even close. Ugh, I'm disgusted.
I'm sure you love this director. I'm sure you love this director even more now, though.
Oh, yeah, I love him. He's the best. He just basically insults an entire culture of movie making, and then tons of fans of the Akira, the original movie, are super pissed at him and just don't think it's going to happen. And then, as far as March 8th, the director told another magazine article, there's no progress on the film and plans to take a break from directing. The studio may still get it made. So I'm just going to go on a bet, so that kind of justifies my cheating in this whole hypothetical, that I'm going to bet that it's not going to get made. It's going to shut down studio, and I'm actually kind of hoping, because I don't like this dude. I hope he doesn't direct it. I don't know any actors that could play the main roles, really, but I just hope it's not him. I hope he's not a director, because it's kind of sad. It's a great movie. I suggest everyone go out and try to find Akira, Akira. It's awesome. Even if you don't like anime, tons of action, really crazy climactic scene, and then like the last 30 seconds are like 2001 Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick, mind-blowing. So, go see it. You can totally find it online. Like, you can find practically everything.
Nice.
But, in case you need help, we'll post a link to find it.
Yeah, I'll link all of this. That director's a dick.
He's a dick.
Even though Nonstop was good, I'll still stand by that.
Apparently he has a boner for Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson plays the main character, even though it's supposed to be a kid. Have you heard the myth about Kira?
Yeah, but a lot of cool, really good actors have kind of been talked to. Gary Oldman, even James Franco, a bunch of different people that makes you think, that'd be sweet, but it just keeps running into these problems. So
I have two more, but one's small. I only have the director, and I'm sure not a lot of people know about this one. This is a short story called Evidence by Isaac Asimov. If anyone knows,
I know
Isaac Asimov, yes, he coined the 3 rules of robotics. Evidence is a short story about it can definitely be expanded into more. It's like a political drama, but if it's a political drama that I'm interested in, it's good, i.e. House of Cards. So the whole thing is it's in the future are robots, and robots aren't realistic enough, but they're pretty there. They're out there. And this one senator or something like that who's running for office for something is getting his competition is all of a sudden thinks, wow, he might be a robot, because he might just be a super advanced robot, because he never is seen eating ever, like not even just sometimes he's just never been reported seeing eating. That's
what
rarely
he does. Someone's off,
he never sleeps, he never drinks or anything like that. So so it goes from between the perspective of the politician and his competition, the potential robot. It goes back and forth between their kind of perspectives on the situation and different characters that they get involved with, and has kind of cool little... It's a short story. It has a cool little ambiguous ending that I really liked.
I love ambiguous endings. The public never does, though, unfortunately. I don't understand why. I love them.
This would be perfect, though, for the director, because he loves ambiguous endings. Okay. I don't know if you know who I'm getting at, but David Fincher would be perfect for this.
Okay. Yeah, he just kind of has to leave it whenever the fuck he feels like ending a movie. I mean, Fight Club, really ambiguous. He actually cut out the last few chapters, I think the last epilogue in the actual book that it was based on, that really kind of ties it all together. And I think he didn't put that in specifically into the end of his movie version of Fight Club to make it more ambiguous. So yeah, you're definitely right with that.
Yeah, and if anyone's, again, I won't spoil it, but if anyone's seen Gone Girl, oh my god, if you know exactly what I'm talking about, that's one of those endings where you go, you're fucking kidding, and it ends. Same with Gone Girl wasn't necessarily ambiguous, it just kind of left you, it was a really good kind of like send off for, hey, this is kind of for book 2, get ready for that. And then that's probably not happening, but that's a different story. But all these endings are, David Fincher just loves kind of just leaving a hole in your stomach. Zodiac, that's based on a true story, so everyone knows that the Zodiac killer has not been found, and the Zodiac movie does not make you feel like he's been found.
Oh no, yeah, that was tough. That was tough to watch, that ending.
Yeah, I felt like I just had a hole in my stomach. I was like, all right, fuck you too.
Yeah. He's still out there. This movie really didn't do anything for you. Have fun. Bye-bye.
Yeah, so that's who I would have for that, because he can handle political dramas, again, with evidence of, like, House of Cards, and, he can handle those kind of, like, characters where it's really dialogue-based, with, like, evidence of all of his films. That's pretty much it.
Max is a fan of David Fincher.
I'm a huge fan of David Fincher. He's one of the greatest, could just handle a camera like it's nobody's business. Like it's his job, Nick. He can handle a camera like it's his job.
Okay, see, that was a good pun. Well, more like a double entendre, I guess.
I don't get it. What are you talking about? That's not a pun.
Well, no, it's not a pun, but it's his job, but like it's his job. The saying, it's a double entendre. You know what? Never mind.
Oh, I did. I didn't catch that. I didn't do that on purpose.
Yep. You didn't even try? Oh, wow. Anyways.
Real Brothers Podcast, everybody. Okay.
That's it. Bye-bye.
Top notch. Anyway, my last kind of idea for an adaptation would be a remake, which everyone's a huge fan of, obviously, all the time.
Just keep remaking everything. That'd be sweet. Just reboot the shit of things.
I never care about remakes, but it's another rant.
I was giving things a second chance. Yeah, I give things a second chance. Who knows?
Yeah, but it would be a controversial one because it's such a like well-received movie. I don't know if you've seen it. It's on Netflix, but it's called Sunset Boulevard. I'm sure everyone who heard that name either got mad at me or just started thinking. 'Cause I like the ones who started thinking, by the way.
Sounds like a terrible title. But what is it about? I have no clue. You got me on the outs here.
It's this writer who's a Hollywood writer. It's kind of like a period piece. It's this Hollywood writer who's low on money. He's can't pay for his car, can't pay for his rent, and he's trying to sell scripts as desperately as possible, but that's not even happening. and eventually he's driving his car and his tire blows out, and he goes in. He thinks he lands in an abandoned mansion, but really it's just a rundown mansion owned by this silent film star, and it's just as the kind of big film started. It was made in the 50s, so it was kind of, a few years after the silent film kind of ended. And that's the actress who lives there is this really famous silent film actress, but she just doesn't have a job anymore. She can't.
She doesn't speak?
No, she speaks, yeah.
Oh.
But, no, I mean, like...
She doesn't walk around with, like, cue cards. She, like, mouths out the words and then pulls up a cue card, and people are like, oh, that's what you're saying. It takes so
just, like,
long to have a conversation with her.
Singing music in the background. Just
Yeah.
Yeah, no. The movie's great. She then is like, all right, I'll pay for your shit if you help me get back into Hollywood. I wrote a script, and you need to help me write it to make it better. It's like this terrible script, apparently, and he hates it, but he's just doing it just for the money. And there's this whole kind of, it shows you behind the scenes of, like, Hollywood and how the writers feel. And, what could work with this, though, is since it's such a period piece, remaking it for modern times is not a bad idea. A lot of people hate when they do that, but I think it's completely a perfect idea for this case, because you got, again, we're going into history, the writer's strike in Hollywood. That was a big deal. That was the reason Transformers 2 is Transformers 2.
It's so terrible. There was a chance for it to be good? What? There
was such thing as good writers even in the year of Transformers 2. But, we got the writer's strike. We got, just in general, modern-day writers that can kind of give their 2 cents of how they think the industry is now, how the whole Hollywood writing industry is now. I would say for directors, my best bet would again be Danny Boyle. We mentioned him earlier.
Okay.
Or even just Steven Spielberg. Since he's such a name in Hollywood, he would be perfect to be a name to direct this Hollywood-based movie. And he wouldn't care as a director. He wouldn't care, even though it kind of pokes fun at directors at times. You could tell just his spirit with movies is just
He enjoys making the grandiose, though. I'm kind of worried because it seems like a bit of a simpler plot, something needs a finer touch, and I feel like he would try to make it like way too grandiose. He's been quoted to say it himself that he loves that shit. He loves making things big. So
the thing with him though, I feel like he wouldn't mind, because of the fact that he's well known. He literally cannot. He would have to try to make a movie that's bad enough to make people like dislike him. So he could seriously go all out and kind of like shit on Hollywood with this one, because he knows exactly how it is. He doesn't write, but he knows everything. If anyone knows everything about Hollywood, it's got to be Spielberg, especially as a director. Just the most well-known director like ever.
Yeah, that's true. It would almost be poetic for him to do it.
Yeah.
Of the source of what it's about. Well, that's a cool idea. You said, just like you said, it's kind of timeless what it's talking about. I think it could be made to kind of a cool twist of maybe like a dark comedy-esque thing. So I think that'd be cool. Yeah,
it gets dark, and the end, like, it kind of goes from, it's a film noir, so it's got like he's the main characters and the narrator. It's got kind of like a cool kind of 3-act structure that just flows so perfectly. It was really really well written, and the actors are all phenomenal in it. The only other director that I kind of was thinking about is Alan Parker. He's a big kind of gritty director. He did the movie Mississippi Burning, if anyone's seen that, but the more famous one he did was Pink Floyd's The Wall. He directed the movie that Roger Waters wrote based around his album The Wall.
Which was weird as shit. What has
crazy.
What has he done recently? Has he done anything recently?
He hasn't done anything since 2003.
Oh.
But, and I've only seen Mississippi Burning and The Wall. But he's a really great director in handling either controversial issues or realistic issues, just in general. And though Pink Floyd The Wall isn't realistic, Mississippi Burning was brutally realistic. It was a fiction. It's based kind of loosely on true stories, but the realistic events, obviously, it's the civil rights movement. So, but yeah, the only 2 actors I would think of, since it's supposed to be like the writer is supposed to be young, getting involved with kind of an older woman, I would I guess either Miles Teller or Michael B. Jordan, because they got to be they gotta be young. They gotta be like decent looking and well spoken. They gotta be like kind of witty, because that's what the writer really was. So those would be the best bet as far as like actors go, and the directors. That's kind of up for grabs. Most of the directors I know are only do action, only do sci-fi, only do. So it's hard to get like directors that can really go realistic.
Something like that. Yeah, it's something like that I could see Paul Thomas Anderson doing, because he likes to take some weird characters and kind of almost darkly comedic ideas, like in The Master, where he took that drunk and sexaholic alcohol dude that Joaquin knocked out of the park. That was amazing, his role in that, and kind of put him in this weird cult situation with, the thing that was so weirdly, stupidly like hinting at Scientology, and it made it darkly funny all at the same time, but hilarious. And he loved the character, so maybe that would be an idea too. But who knows?
Yeah, and they'll, Joaquin Phoenix is just amazing. He'd be a little old for the role by now, but he works so well with Paul Thomas Anderson.
I could see him being like a washed up, screenwriter though,
But there's a big plot. There's a big kind of subplot with him being a young writer, and the older film star gets kind of like falls for him, and they kind of have like a relationship, and there's the whole controversy around that. So
weird. Cougar, cradle rob.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Cool. That's definitely different. It's good because, we had like science fiction and future and dystopian, like super, super guy movies, so which we can't help really. We're guys.
Yeah.
But then this one changes the pace, and it's good to kind of say, hey, we will watch other movies too from time to time for people who doubt us.
Yeah, I mean, Sunset Boulevard, honestly, it was definitely, it really made me, because since I love writing so much, it just watching it and listening to them talk about it and talk about, there's another subplot where they kind of want to make their own movie, and just the ideas of the movie make me think about like movies I write and like how I come up with the ideas, and it's such a cool kind of like, I don't know, it made me really want to write, and that's what made me love the movie so much. So if anyone wants to check it out, it's on Netflix, instant. So, it's a 1950s movie. It's less than 2 hours. It's a solid movie. It flows really well. You're never tired. You're never bored.
Do yourself a favor. Get some culture. Watch the goddamn movie.
Do that, yeah.
It could be that weird movie when you're big and famous to be like, hey, what inspired you to be a director? This is a Californian giving an interview.
Clearly.
He was like, well, I don't really know, because you'll have a British accent at this time. Maybe Sunset Blvd. And you talk about that. And people were like, I don't know what the fuck that movie is. But
yeah,
I can see it now. It's cool.
You just look at them just like, you don't know Sunset Boulevard, check your privilege, and then you could just start giving them I don't know where I'm going with that.
You hold out your drumsticks and drop them and walk away.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Very cool. A lot of cool ideas. So this ends the hypotheticals, as far as we know. But I'm sure there's more to come and more cool ideas that we might come up with in the future, hypothetical other situations, competitions. Anyways, that wraps up my round one of hypotheticals. I think we'll think of a ton of awesome ideas in the future. And if anybody listening, feel free to comment away. Give your ideas on movies that you thought of, hypotheticals. You thought specifically ones that you think will never get made, because it's interesting to talk about something like that. So feel free to comment on the video if you're listening on your ideas for any hypothetical movies you may or may have, and maybe directors and actors as well. We'd love to hear and we'd love to chat about that. Next week, or if this doesn't next week, then maybe cut it out. But we want to do something kind of related to what is the real live-action best Batman interpretation, and I'm really excited for it.
Adam West.
It's my Adam West. It's my favorite thing to talk about. I could talk hours about it, but we're going to try to keep it in 1 hour. But that's next week. This week, we talked about hypotheticals.
Yeah.
If you or the commenters or listeners have any other ideas, feel free to send them in the comments or message them. We'd love to hear about it and talk about them. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. The last thing I want to do, we might be running a little long, but who cares? Whatever.
We're the boss.
Yeah. The one kind of segment I want to start doing weekly now is updating and giving news based around Indiegogo or Kickstarter or Patreon kind of news, movie news, obviously. So not just random projects people are doing. And the one, I guess, this week that stands out for the most part is, I'm sure you heard of it, Nick, is the announcement of Super Troopers 2.
Yes, I did. Very pumped. I might
Complete
actually get one to
crowdfund.
that.
I want to. I feel bad for not funding Zach Braff's movie, so I think this will kind of give myself closure.
Wish I Was Here did alright, though. You're fine. It did pretty
Oh
good.
yeah, it did amazingly. I'll keep updates. Also, I'll tell people what started on said crowdfunding sites. Also, I'll keep updates. Like I know Laser Team just finished. Anyone who knows that's the Rooster Teeth project that like broke records on how quickly and how much money they got. They got like they were asking for like a certain amount of money, and they got like double it in a few hours of starting the campaign.
For what?
So they like
What was Rooster Teeth saving up for? Like, what were they trying to do in the first place?
they're making their own feature-length film
About what?
called Laser Team. It's a sci-fi comedy. It's based around, I'll link the trailer. It's based around kind of like people finding alien technology. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but it's not like complex, obviously, but it's like record-breaking, crowdfunded. I think it's finished filming, but it's just in post-production now. Trailers are already, the teasers are out. But yeah, so Super Troopers 2, no real trailers have come out except for the promotional crowdfunding.
I saw that. It was hilarious, but
It was great, yeah.
slightly, I hope they don't fall into the Anchorman 2 thing where they just kind of beat dead jokes,
Oh,
We talked about this before. Don't reintroduce new jokes. Come up with something new. But it was funny. They were back in the character right away like they had always been. It was great.
yeah, it was, yeah. So Super Troopers looks great. I'll keep news up, keep looking up stuff about other crowdfunded movies, and I'll keep news together about Super Troopers. Like I said, I don't think there's anything to report about Laser Team anymore. That just ended, I think, as of like a few days ago. So yeah, I'll keep you guys. Same with Patreon. If that's a continual crowd thing, like a monthly payment rather than just for one project. I don't know if many movies will be based off of that, but definitely like web series. So
Cool. Yeah. You're a guy. You're a good guy, Max. I don't care what they all say about you.
thank you.
But I don't know if you got anything else. Well, we'll wrap it up then, I guess, if you want to.
No, I'm pretty all set with that.
Yeah, sounds good. So we're pretty dried up as far as news goes. Nothing crazy major, but if anything, we're already running a little late, so we'll wrap it up. And if there's any other major news, we'll update you next week. Feel free to find us on Twitter, which Max knows now. I will start to try to get on top of that. This is my first time using Twitter, so I'm pretty new with it.
He's getting cultured, everybody.
Yeah, I unfortunately am somewhat forced to talk to all you beautiful people about our stuff and about random movie updates. Keep an eye on that. We'll put a link in our About Me. Also, follow this. We'll try to keep it every week, but if we can't, we'll get it out. We'll get it out to you. I like doing this, so we'll continue to do it. And if you have any other ideas for what you want to talk about, I already had an idea from a viewer to do something on how terrible movie trailers have come. So eventually we'll do something about that. But for now, I am Nick.
I am Max.
And we are the Real Brothers. Thanks for sticking around. See you next time.
Brothers ready? Roll podcast and action.